Hi, today I will be arguing the negative for the topic. Should the United States get rid of the death penalty? So I will be arguing that the United States should keep the death penalty. And to start, I would like to talk about something that the affirmative would talk about, which is keeping the death penalty would actually have no effect on whether or not crimes are being committed. And I would argue against that, saying that people or states that have the death penalty, and I'll give a little bit of background first. So from the year 2000 or 1990 to 2003, the average death penalty per states for those of the death penalty states went from 9 in 1990 to about 5 in 2003. And that of those non-death penalty states went from about 8 in 1990 to 4 in 2003. So a steady decrease overall, and it's interesting to see that the death penalty states have a higher amount of murders than those of the non-death penalty states. But what I would say to that is the states that have the death penalty, they have it for a reason. So whether it be, the most likely thing would they just have a lot of murders, and they have a lot of things that would involve people being or having the death penalty and getting executed as a result. So for those states that have the death penalty, say we didn't have the death penalty, who knows what those numbers would be? And actually, before we had the death penalty, those states that did have that have the death penalty now, but they didn't have it at the time, had a lot higher murder rates than the other states that did not have it. And sure, there were states that didn't have a lot of murder rates, but they still applied the death penalty. But that's something I would say is that it actually does help deter crime. And another thing I would like to argue is that this would support the negative, so keeping the death penalty, is that the people voted on this, and that's something that in our Constitution is so important, is the power of the people. That's something that it really does matter. We get to vote for a lot of things, so a lot of like elections, like presidents and governments and stuff like that. So the people voted for the death penalty to keep the death penalty, and that itself should really have a say on keeping it. So that's one thing. And another thing would be that when you think about it, like those people on the death penalty, they're there for a reason. There's some pretty bad people. There's bad people and they're just in jail. And then there's the really bad people, like rapists, serial killers, stuff like that. Just absolute menaces to society. And our world just doesn't have room for those people. And trust me, the United States would be better without those kinds of people. And actually, I learned this from my mom. She's a lawyer and she works for the state. And I didn't know this, but people on the death penalty, there are some people on the death penalty that are mob bosses, and they actually run crimes. They're not like a part of them physically, but they run crimes. They're like the mastermind behind it in prison that happen in the street, in the world. So stuff like that, if we keep the death penalty and get rid of people like that are behind stuff like that, just trust me, the world would be a way better place if we didn't have time for those people. So yeah, that is my negative to the topic, whether or not we should keep the death penalty.